right, welcome everyone. It's been a couple of weeks almost now since our last episode. This is the Skin and Bones podcast. It is March the 1st, Rabbit, 2022. Zach and I have been a little bit busy, had things going on, but we're happy to be back. This is episode number 9. We're sticking with it. We're following through with it. But How's it going, Zach? It's good to see you, man. We haven't even talked hardly at all, like aside from the podcast.
I know we've tried to do this a couple times over the past couple of weeks, and it's just like I've been either working late or you've been doing something, or it's just we're like two ships in the night. So I'm happy we get to do it.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely taking, I feel like, quite a bit more sacrifice on your end. So I always appreciate the fact that you set aside the time. The other night we were going to think about doing it, but I decided to buy out all the chicken at HEB and grill it up, but it was worth it.
So why we don't do the podcast, we still do talk. And Peter showed me a picture of his barbecue and it actually looked decent. Like I was pretty stoked about it.
I'm learning. Yeah. I don't know if I'm Gordon Ramsay yet, but I'm learning.
No, you're definitely not Gordon Ramsay.
I'm not a pit master, but when you move to Texas, a certain part of your soul is you got to be a little bit of a pit master. Anyways, we got a couple things we want to talk about today, but I think Zach should bring up his first topic that you wanted to talk about.
So my first topic is, for the first time ever, I'm having a beer on the show. Reason being is that while I don't celebrate, I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a denominational Christian, but I still think Lent's a great holiday to give up something that you enjoy having from time to time to whenever you feel like, oh, I want to sit down and have a beer or something. It's like, you know what, I'm going to take this time to reflect on God. And that's what the Lenten season is about. And remember the greatest sacrifice and the greatest gift ever given to man. And so tonight's my last night to have a beer. So I'm having a beer.
So Zach's about to start fasting essentially and trying to get his mind right and refocused, and props to you for that, man. I like it.
It's, I've done it for the last 2 years, and I think like the hardest part, it's like not hard. Like it's never been hard to just be like, I'm not gonna have a beer tonight. That's fine. But it's like those weekends that I have off, and then like I do a bunch of yard work around the house and I'm grilling, and it's like my inner man's like, I just want to sit down and have a beer, you almost
like, grunt and you're like
it beat my chest out there. And it's like just to sit on my front porch and have a beer and relax with my wife would be so great right now. But you know what, it's another time to just reflect on what good things God's given me. So
for sure, man. We got a ton of stuff going on this past couple of weeks. We were in Utah a couple of weeks ago. We were skiing, which was a good time. It was Cynthia's first time skiing. I don't know if we've made an episode. I don't know if we made an episode since we've been back. So I actually like snowboarding better. I'm one of the few people who actually think that snowboarding is easier than skiing, which is kind of weird because I actually think that skiing is just basically ice skating with larger things on your feet. Because I mean, when you're talking about
that's what they call it in Wisconsin, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, playing hockey, I think the idea of skiing makes a lot more sense to me. But I enjoy snowboarding a lot more, and I think I'm better at it. But I picked it up a lot easier. I haven't snowboarded since high school, so like going down, getting used to it again was fun. And then Cynthia had never been to a ski hill, never been on a ski lift, never been on anything.
That's such an interesting dynamic because it's like you're getting your bearings again, and she's like, I'm new to this, and you're like, I know how to do this, but give me a minute.
That's pretty much what it was. So we started off responsible. We got helmets first and foremost. The disability insurance is in place, so it's okay. But we definitely got helmets. We started off on the bunny hill. It took me a little bit of time. We went to Brighton in Utah, which is really nice. We really enjoyed it. Went with good friends Justin and Amanda, and just had a nice time. Rented a cabin, chilled out in the hot tub, just hung out. I grilled out there too, so I mean, it was it's becoming another habit. But I was really proud of Cynthia because it was her first time. And some people they're like, oh, I'm just gonna go for it, and that's just not the way you should do it. That's really not the way you should do it.
That's not Cynthia though. That's not the woman married. She's not just be like, I'm going into this. She's gonna ask questions.
She wanted to get the hang of it. But honestly, after like 3-4 hours, we went up the first chairlift pretty quick after she just got on the bunny hill. She learned how to slow down, and then just took it from there. And we actually went up one of the larger chairlifts at the end of the day. But when you're talking about like skiing for the first time, that's actually a pretty big deal for a lot of people. So I was pretty
Totally.
proud of her. 3 or 4 hours,
That's awesome,
and
man.
she put her mind to it, and she just definitely was like, yeah, this is fun, we can do this again. But we're also really
That's
sore
awesome.
because we're old, and the joints and everything are going.
You're in your 30s, dude. You need to
I felt
stop.
my left knee. I was like, I've been putting a lot of
You
pressure on my
have
left
no
knee.
room to talk about knee pain. Zero.
Oh, cue the violin of Zach's knee dilemmas. Knee
Well,
dilemmas.
you know what? This is great though, because it brings us into the first topic that, I mean, we talked about, catching up, but the first topic I want to talk about is that it seems so awesome to, you're in your first year. I know we've
Mhm.
talked about a lot of things in your first year, but you kind of have this time and this schedule and these things around you where it's like for the first time in a long time, for you, it was 8 years. For me, it's going to be 10 years,
Mhm.
to be like, you know what, I have a little bit of control of my life and what I do. And by the way, I actually am paying off my debt and I have some capital, right? So it's
Mhm.
like actually kind of nice that you're being reimbursed for your job now, that
Sure.
you're out there on your own. And you get to have this like kind of normalcy of life where it's like, I come to work at this time, I leave at this time, I have these things to do at
Mhm.
home. And I feel like I'm in that spot now where when I talk to people about the stresses of residency, it's
Yeah.
like all these things, but it's everyone the first thing they say is you're so close, and it's like, that doesn't make anything better right now. I wanted to know, like, what was your experience like kind of being in my shoes now? It's like,
Mhm.
you're almost done with residency. You're about to, be out on your own.
Mhm.
What was that experience like? And now looking back on it, 8 months now, like what
Yeah.
is it like?
It was impatient. It was definitely impatient.
Yeah.
I think in defense of everyone else, I don't know if people know what else to say. You're almost done. Well, everyone kind of goes through it, and just saying that you're
Yeah.
almost done, it's their way of encouraging us. But honestly, if you're telling us that, it doesn't really help in that time period unless you can speed up time. In our heads during residency, you're not really helping us, but we appreciate the care.
We appreciate it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like the worst thing you can say.
Yeah, but I was even talking to my staff about this today, about how like perspective is everything. And I do have a little more time now, but responsibilities change.
Yeah.
And honestly, you don't want to be complacent about anything. We've talked on previous episodes, you want to keep learning, you want to keep pushing yourself, and
Yeah.
you really don't have any choice but to, as far as I'm concerned, with the type of person I am, if you're going to want to make good decisions, you're going to have to be reading all the time.
Right.
It's not a day I go to work and I'm just like, oh, I know everything, oh, I am just a supreme doctor today. No, there's not one day I go to work and not look something up. And
Yeah.
so it's perspective, and it's a matter of, I wasn't impatient, I was ready. I would say that I was super ready to be done with residency. um there was like a button that clicked, or like a light switch that flipped like halfway through residency. I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to learn a ton more at this point, and it feels like I am just here. I am here to see patients now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and I mean, I definitely, don't get me wrong, for any of my like mentors and attendings I work with, if you're listening to this, I appreciate every one of you. It wasn't that, it's just at a certain point, thank you for doing your job and teaching me relatively quickly to be
Yeah.
confident in what I'm doing, to look forward to the future. But even early on in practice, I mean, I'm almost, I don't know, I started in September. So a few months in now, less than a year in, I'm just still learning a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think we should necessarily, it's hard for us in the time period when I mean, for lack of, we're suffering, but there's so many other people that are suffering in different ways, in worse ways
Yeah.
than us. We tend to get into our own heads about like, hey, Zach, with you, I don't know how you get away with like the lack of sleep and like people always bugging you about administrative details and things like that. But it kind of boils down to one thing that I didn't realize until after the fact, was how are we going to wait for the next thing to be happy instead of enjoying life right now? And no matter how
Yeah.
hard it is, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's really hard for me certain days, just like any other humans. Seeing what's going on with the world right now, I think it's almost made it easier to kind of live that way, with the war in Ukraine and like instability within our own country, that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
I was super impatient though.
Yeah.
But I can see myself almost having that same thing, like, oh, my patient load isn't built up yet. Oh, it'll just be good once my patient load's built up. And then like we're going to start generating revenue, like that sort of stuff. You're always looking towards the next step. And I think especially the personalities that get through medicine, we're really bad at living in the here and now. And that's why I love that I'm married to Cynthia, because good grief, she is the reason why I even do it.
Yeah.
I
Rule
don't know if
number
that
one
answered
for
your
both of
question though.
us. Rule number one for both of us: find a strong woman to go through this with you. Yeah, man. I mean, I think, what you said is true. And I think, one of the things that I'm kind of proud that I do is whenever I hear something really, really bright said by someone, I write that down. And one of the things he said is, Zach, we're either going into a season of struggle or coming out of a season of struggle, but we should celebrate it all. And it's like, that's true. It's like, I feel like right now I'm kind of like going into a season trying to like just get through residency and grind. And it's a different kind of thing. Megan and I are talking about, hey, are we going to not lose, sorry, are we going to sell the house? Hey, when are we going to move out, getting accommodations out in my fellowship for 1 year and all these things. And then on the other side, it's like, we're excited for this next season of change, but we're going through a lot of time separated, just me studying for boards and things like that. So yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah. Apprehension too. It's definitely there are seasons for things. And I talked to Cynthia about this the other day while I was studying for boards and everything. And throughout residency, it's hard to go to work during the day and then have to come home and study as much theoretical infectious disease, histopathology in dermatology residency for sure. And I felt like I had two jobs, and I felt like I came home, was pretty tired, and then just worked out, and then was studying again until I went to bed, and then it was just like doing it all over again. It felt like Groundhog Day. But that's just residency. That's not just my experience. That's everyone's experience for the most part. And some specialties to the nth degree, like orthopedics. But
it's
I was
a
gonna say something
different,
else. Yeah.
it's just a little different. Everyone's a little different. I think one of the good things that I'm pulling out of this is, even though, like kind of like you said, it's like I'm just here and I feel like I'm going through the motions sometimes, because you get to that one point. I don't feel like I'm not at that point, but I think one of the coolest things is like I know so much about trauma surgery, and right now I'm back on trauma. And we just got a new attending who came out, and he thinks about things differently. And you're like sitting there and you're like, oh, never thought about it that way, because he uses a different kind of, not system, but way of thinking about how to fix fractures, and using different pins and frames in order to set up things. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting, and it's like a new point of view, and I can just pick his brain, and it's been so awesome. So
yeah,
it's actually been like a breath of fresh air for me, because it's like, you get so used to, oh, I'm with Dr. So-and-so today, you're attending. And it's like, this is the way they like things. This is the way they think. This is the way they do this. Right.
Yeah.
And then you get with someone who's brand new, you've never worked with, and they're like, oh, well, why? The power of why do you do it that way? Why? And it's like, it's kind of an interesting new thing. And I'm like learning a lot of cool things from them.
You're gleaning a lot from all the people that you're working with, and you're creating the attending that you're going to be when you're done. And that's essentially what training does. I find myself saying things that, I mean, I think back, like when I graduated med school, I was like, why would I ever say this? And then I think about the exact attending at exact time that I heard them say it first. And then I heard them say it 1,000 times more than that, like while I was working with them. And then it's like, good grief, this is me now. And you just take a bunch of different little things from everyone you work with, both professionally and then interpersonally as well. How you deal with patients, how you deal with difficult scenarios. I mean, the age old question on like when you're actually reviewing someone, like how well do they do in difficult situations, yada yada. You're learning all these things from the people in training. But it brought, when you said there's a time for kind of growth and basically going through hard times, it brought to my attention one time Dr. Dow, the chair at Loma Linda Dermatology, who's great. He's a super innovator, and he described it to me one day when we were going through a rough time as far as like implementing some new protocol. I forget what it was. I think it was during COVID, actually, and we were like doing a lot of telemedicine and everything was brand new. And I mean, he basically just described it as like innovation doesn't happen overnight. And like just because you're down here and thinking about the stock market going up, think of the innovation as the stock market. And basically it goes down, it goes up, it goes way down. There's dips and there's peaks. And eventually the end goal is being a little bit higher than it was previously. It's just nobody
Right.
sees that roundabout way that you're getting there, and residency feels like that. And that's why they say it feels like a roller coaster too, because you're just up and down.
Yeah, and I feel like what you said is true, right? Because we look at the everyday life and we feel like we're doing this all the time, right? But if you put that same thing on a logarithmic scale, as long as it's consistently going upwards, it's okay.
Exactly.
We tend to focus on the minute detail of that, and we see this all the time, right? But it's like, who am I as a person and where am I going? Is it overall up when I zoom out and I see the graph with the bigger picture? Or is it like this thing where it's always in traumatic chaos? That's a good analogy.
I like it. It's the end result, and not focusing too much on downturns, because you're gonna have, if you're not running into small failures, you're not even trying. And that's, I mean, it sounds simplistic, it sounds cliche, and your failures and your struggles in residency, those are some pretty big things. I mean, like when you run into like a hurdle that you're trying to jump over, like it's something that like means a lot to you, because you're dealing with people's lives. You don't ever want it to go down, but sometimes it's going to dip down, you're going to learn from it, and then you're going to get it even better the next time. So it's always that ever-changing thing. I'm not calling you a failure. I don't know if it came out that way.
I didn't take it that way until you said it, but okay, thanks.
Because I was like, what, because I saw your face and I was like, I'm not calling you a failure, bro.
Oh, it's all good. I'm like, no, part of being back on trauma is being exhausted. So
I don't know how you even function.
Years of practice. No, it's actually not too bad this time around, and it's a little different than the situation I've been in before, because of what's been going on with our program and everything like that. So it's kind of like I'm just a fill-in because I'm supposed to be on a better rotation right now, but not to blame, but it still is trauma. It's still long days. It's still working with big fractures. I think Friday, Megan and I were supposed to go to Tahoe because, the good thing is I'm kind of it's trauma, but it's a lighter rotation. I don't want to explain it here, but anyway, I have every weekend off. And so we wanted to go up to Tahoe. And so Friday I had a 7-hour case and then a 4-hour case, 3-hour case. And I got home at like 8:30, and I was literally in the operating room all day, and they're like very intricate, like a lot of focus, a lot of attention, a lot of acetabular surgery, a lot of bad vessels around. So you need your full focus when you're putting drills in the pelvis and things like that. And then we had another case like that, and I just came home and I was so mentally exhausted. And granted, it was only like 8:30, which on trauma is not the worst night in the world. But I was just like, I can't go up I can't do it tonight. I can't even pack. Like, I don't want to do it. And we ended up going up the next morning, but it's just like one of those things where it's just like, I forgot how exhausting it was because I thought I was over it, but nope, I'm back.
You're adapting, man.
Yeah.
You're adapting. Oh man. Well, that's good. So yeah, we need to go skiing sometime. Snowboarding, skiing.
Well,
do you guys go to Heavenly when you go up there?
It's not falling with style anymore for me.
It's falling like, with pain.
Yeah. It's, so I'm getting better, but no, we usually go to Kirkwood. We used to go to Sequoia at Tahoe, but due to the fires that were up here in the state of California, Sequoia got burned up, and it's kind of sad every time we go up, we see it. And now that it's getting like, more and more clear in the wintertime, you see all the devastation. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But anyway, Heavenly is usually not a good place for someone who would call themselves definitely a beginner. As far as I can get down a mountain.
Yeah.
But like I can't go where there's a lot of tourists, which Heavenly has a lot of tourists and it's very busy. And so there's a lot of people who really are learning too. And I'm like, oh, that's
They're
how I can get
flying
hurt.
past you on their way to the ER.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I've heard so many stories and most of them come from Heavenly. I was at Heavenly and it's just like, I had some guy just run into me, but everywhere else, like I feel like I never hear it.
Yeah.
So, except that like the really nice ones are like, yeah, I went back mountain skiing and I ran into a tree and I'm like, oh
Yeah. Yeah. Going off the beaten path.
yeah.
So I heard today they're going to miss regular season games for the MLB this year. They couldn't reach a
Okay.
deal.
So you follow baseball closer than I do. And from what I have read, and again, I haven't read too much because obviously the eyes, trauma.
Me neither. So both of
But
us are
like,
ignorant at this point, but we can still talk about it.
how do you feel that on one side, the people who are the owners are making a lot of money and every year it's going up because entertainment and athletics in this country has always gone up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. And then the players going, hey, well, the minimum wage is this. Why can't it be this every year? But at the same time, I'm like, golly, you're asking for, hundreds of thousands of dollars more than the hundreds of thousands of dollars you make a year for playing the sport. It's kind of like, I don't know where I'm stuck there.
Yeah. I think that the years of service, like the increase in pay, no matter how good you are, just because you've been in the league longer, I think that needs to change.
I mean, I would agree with that statement. And at the end of the day, who gets hurt the most? The fans, right? The people who
oh man,
just want to leave work behind and just go out to a ball game with their kids.
If we miss even half a season of Mike Trout in his prime, I'm gonna be a little angry.
Baseball Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, then like we're not even gonna know the true potential of like all the records he could, like if we have like a full year lockout for whatever reason, that would make me sad. That's really all.
I think you just hurt the fans right now. Like,
yeah,
baseball is, I've never been a huge fan. Maybe when I have kids, I'll go more. But like baseball is a place where it's like in for how many months a year? Like 6 months a year. Any day you can go to the game and just like get away from work, go enjoy an entertainment in
and it's
person.
like relaxing and strategic. If you follow baseball, if you play baseball, like I mean, I love going to a game because you just get a bag of peanuts, you sit there and you just watch. Like I love just talking to Cynthia about like, okay, why is the shortstop running over there when nothing's even happening? Is backing up the third baseman and yada yada. And just like the small intricate things that you actually respect about the game. But I was listening to a take this morning and I forget who was saying it, but it was on the way to work and they were basically saying they need to innovate the game because if there's a holdout, it's just going to lose interest in the sport that's already like way behind the NFL and even the NBA with like young kids. And eventually like kids are probably not going to want to play baseball if they're not going to change the way things are going because it's so archaic. I'm all with like the culture of baseball and like the old school way of thinking and like not changing certain rituals and how it's very like,
yeah, I mean, I totally hear you. And I think there's always going to be a population like that in America.
yeah.
So I don't think it's going anywhere. But what I do see is, there's the other side of the coin with people like me. Like I enjoy baseball going to a game in person. I can't watch it because I just can't follow a season of 163 games. Like that's just insane to me. I think that if you go for 3 for 10, you're an all-star is insane to me. Right. Like, I mean, you have to, like in football, you had to be right on every play. You had to fill your gap. You had to do your job on every play so that you would win. And then at the end, it's a force of will. So that kind of like standing around and like, oh, it's a pitch. And then it's another pitch, it's just like, I just don't. And I think that's just the other side of the coin. So I think there's people like me, there's people like other people. But at the end, if someone said, hey, Zach, you want to go to a game? Yeah, I'll go. They
got to find a way to speed up the game too. They need to limit how many pitchers each team has. I think that would make it a lot more interesting. But because there's so much data that goes into it. There's so much what Moneyball introduced and statistics and everything that's introduced into sports now and all the the sports stats that go into it, they literally will have a pitcher come in like for one batter multiple times, like in an inning even.
Oh. I mean, but that's
Anyways,
part of the strategy of the game that people like you appreciate and understand, right?
yeah, but it's even like wearing on me, because like
Oh,
the Brewers did that for a while because their starters were we had just like a ridiculously good bullpen, and like we just utilized our bullpen, and we just the games just dragged on and on and on a couple of
yeah.
years ago. But I
Yeah.
don't even follow it as much as I used to, but I thought it was interesting. It's a power struggle. There's so much money being made in sports right now, it's absurd.
It
So it's a
it
huge
kind of
power
is.
struggle. It's a power struggle among people who are making plenty of money, and people just want to watch baseball and watch players do cool things and be distracted from everything else that's going on around us.
I
That's
hear
what
that.
sports does.
Staying
Anyways.
on sports and what's entertaining, how did you feel about the Michigan Wisconsin coach fight?
Oh yeah. So Greg Gard. I've never seen Greg Gard even like raise his voice once, I feel like the Badgers coach. So for those of you who are listening and wondering what's going on, Wisconsin
I
and
thought this was a
Michigan.
show about two doctors.
Yeah. Wisconsin and Michigan. Yeah, we like sports though too.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
Their men's college basketball teams played, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, or it was a week ago. I think it was only a week ago.
No, it was
Anyways,
2 weeks ago.
was it?
I go by things I see at the gym. It was 2 weeks ago.
Anyways, there was this whole thing in men's college basketball. You line up and you shake hands at the end of the game to show
Yeah.
sportsmanship. The Badgers, the Wisconsin team, was whooping up on Michigan in this particular game. And basically what happened is the Badgers coach called a timeout at the end, even though they were winning by a lot, because the Wolverines, the Michigan Wolverines, were pressing them. And he had all his bench players and he wanted them to get a chance to get it at half court. So I think there was a misunderstanding there, and the Juwan Howard, the coach for the Wolverines, took offense to that because he thought that he was running up the score, doing all that stuff. So in the line, he just like totally ignored Greg Gard in the line to shake hands, and Greg Gard took offense to that as like a sportsman, and he's like, "What's your deal, man?" I don't know all the details, but this is what I've gathered. And basically, Greg Gard and Juwan Howard got into it. He's like, I didn't like that you called this timeout, yada, yada. And then like a big fight breaks up. But long story short, basically the Michigan coach like slapped one of the assistant coaches. It was like a punch. He wound up like a punch, but he slapped him in the face.
Oh, so if it's open hand, it's okay.
Well, it was pretty aggressive. So I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know everything that was said. I'm sure there was more than what the media says. So
I love how you like micro looked into everything. I saw it as like two passionate guys in a passionate game, like get upset and something happened and it came to that. I just hope that they can shake their hands at the end of the day and be like, sorry, man. Like I was just really passionate and that's okay. And they walk
don't you
away.
love how different we are as people?
Right. Like
I just,
like,
you didn't look at all those
like,
aspects.
It's like you just get so upset with someone and you just like kind of like, you're just so passionate about something. And then at the end, it's just like, oh man, I really didn't mean that.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, but and then you can love each other at the end of the day.
I hear you. Oh man. What else is new, man? How's Megan? Megan's good.
She's doing good. She's had the first 5 shifts in the emergency department. So she just started the emergency department. And she's enjoying it. And she's kind of got a more solid schedule now. So which is nice for her. I mean, it's only her 2nd week, I think. Yeah. So she's going on her 6th day. Tomorrow she's off tonight. And so, she's just kind of cruising along and she's back on a, not back. She's on a solid schedule like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. So I get to see her a little bit more as scheduled rather than being all over the place.
Good, man. Yeah. Cynthia and I were chilling tonight, and then we found out the State of the Union was on. We can talk about what those are usually like without talking about the politics within it. I just think it's funny that it's like a Pentecostal choir where they're all standing up and clapping and then standing up and clapping. It's like musical chairs.
We totally agree.
It's so funny. It's just like, why are we clapping? And then Nancy Pelosi almost fell down. She stood up so fast one time. She was thinking about all the insider trading she was about to do. And then like just got so excited that like she almost like tripped and her like knocked her veneers out. That was the funnest part about it for me.
I mean, I just don't get it. Like it should be something that, even if it is a public thing, it's like the president comes in, he says what he likes, he says what he doesn't like, he says what he envisions.
Yeah.
He asks the American people to do something and he leaves, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no this up and down. I need to bring in someone. And that's for both sides. Same
Oh no,
thing.
yeah.
It's
I'm
like,
not gonna get into specifics here because we could
yeah,
go
I mean,
into specifics all day.
I think that it should just be a quick thing. And
Yes.
then and I think the American people would have so much more
Mhm.
like respect for that, for someone who just came out and said, this is what I think, this is where I stand, this is where I envision us going. Great, out.
Yeah. It's like going up there trying to say that you're being bipartisan, but then at the same time, like just stabbing people in the back,
Publicly.
no matter which side you're on. Like it happens on both sides. The choir rehearsal, like you stand up, it's just like everyone's clapping, like either people are mad or booing, and then it's just and it's just like a bunch of people in there.
It's like a sitcom,
It
where
almost
everything's
is
over
like a
emotionally.
sitcom.
No,
Yeah.
what's the daytime dramas? What are those called?
Soap operas. It's
Soap
a
opera.
soap
It's like a
opera.
soap opera. That's exactly what it is. It's this grandiose, over the top, like just no.
Yeah. The one specific I'll bring into it is that like ABC zoomed in on Ted Cruz when Biden was talking about his like infrastructure, like the infrastructure bill. And they like zoomed in on Ted Cruz. And I thought that was so savage because of like what happened with the energy in Texas, the energy
Oh,
grid in Texas. And I was
yeah.
like, this is so planned. I was like, this is so planned. That's savage.
Yeah. Well,
And then Biden
I
was just,
mean,
yeah, it's,
it's just like you said, it's theatrics. It's it's things that I think one of the more frustrating things about it is that
mhm,
the CDC came out with new masking guidelines the day before.
mhm.
Where's the science? I've yet to see it.
There's, I don't know. There's a lot of doctors that previously were very for like mandates and things like that, just kind of moving towards your way of thinking as far as your feelings on, hey, it's a risk benefit way of life. We have risk walking out the door every morning. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think I've heard a lot of people actually completely do a 180 and switch their opinions. So
I mean, yeah. I mean,
if
I
you
just
want
wish
to
it
if you
didn't.
want to open that can.
No, I just wish it didn't take this long. I mean, that's all I'll say. I just, as a person who follows logic and science, I'm able to follow it whatever way it takes me. There's things on both sides. There's things where I can hear both sides about things, but when you're dealing with people's lives, and then you say all of a sudden, for no reason at all,
Yeah,
this big thing can change.
sure.
It makes me just question the people at bay. And not an anti-vaxxer, I'm not all these things, but I'm just saying, like when there's no science or logic or reasoning behind it, and something
Mhm.
just changes all of a sudden, then it's like you're dealing with people's lives, right? Like,
Sure.
you can't be doing that on a drop of a dime. And you can't be implementing something that you don't even have data to back either. So that's
That's
my
true.
stance.
I hear you.
Just being a logical physician, right? Like we
Yeah.
go by evidence-based medicine, right? Like, so, there's not a lot of doctors who are out there who probably aren't reading a little something in the journals about, at least I would hope, about COVID-19, because
Mhm.
it's encompassing everything, right? So yeah,
I
I'll leave it
hear
at
what
that.
you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It's the theatrics of the State of the Union. It's kind of just funny. It's real
The
funny.
theatrics are not funny. It's just ridiculous. But
It
yeah, I
is
mean, it
ridiculous.
was yeah, I mean, I think also, like, one of the things is like all the things that are going on throughout medicine, like internationally, whatever it is, it's like I feel like they're just like, I don't know if it didn't affect me as much because it's like you wake up, you go to work the next day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
when you're in medicine, it's like there's always that you need to come into work, because if you don't come into work, guess what? People don't get help, right? And
Sure.
what they need for their lives. And so it's like I woke up and I never had to worry about, is this going to affect my job or anything like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like most of the big things that have happened over the last year, it's easy to sweep under the rug, because it's like you show up, you do your job, at work, because it's kind of like the same mentality.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. A couple of the things about medicine, like pertaining to medicine, he brought up were just like prescription drug prices, which in my mind are ridiculous, but not nearly the biggest problem in healthcare that we need to address. With that, I think the biggest problem is figuring out how to get the insurance industry like either out of it completely or regulated. Like it's just gotten absurd, and they keep trying to, and it's just getting worse.
There's an imperfection to every system, and I
Yeah.
think that we give the best healthcare in the world. I don't think all the innovation comes from the US. The technology and how it's manufactured might come from other places, but like I think we breed the greatest minds here, and without a benefit, we wouldn't be having some of the things that we have.
Yeah.
So there's one way to look at that, but I do understand the side that you're saying is that, the prices are high. But I just think that, to me, what differs from you is I don't think that government should step in. I think it should be an open, free market.
No, I don't think the government should step in, because
But
you and
it's
I
an
have
issue.
both worked at the VA, and
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. And
we'll leave it at that.
that's not any place I would recommend most people going. I'm not saying there's not good doctors at the VA. I'm
Nope.
not saying there's not good
That's the
nurses.
difference. That's the difference. There are great doctors there,
Yeah.
amazing doctors there.
It's a systematic problem as far as like way too much administrative burden on people who work there, that it severely gets in the way of how
Yeah.
patients are taken care of.
Could you imagine that, like in one
No,
system
I
though? Like
can't.
it would just
No,
be,
no,
oh,
because if that, yeah,
and
the
it
VA
breaks your
is a
heart.
terrible idea of what a government run healthcare system would look like.
I mean, I feel that there was two groups of people. There were people who were just like really frustrated with everything and not being able to get things done
Yes,
faster and their patients
yes,
help faster. And then there were the other people who were still, again, great doctors, but they're like, whatever, like I'm done being mad
they
about
went with
this. I'm
it.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. Like I can't, what am I going to do? Fight the federal government? Like,
Well, that's the
it's,
thing. Yeah, that's one of the positives of working there. Like if you, I mean, are ever sued or anything like that, the federal government's backing you, and
yeah,
that sort of thing. You have a lot less liability from a private like standpoint, but that's one of the few positives to. I loved working with the vets. Don't get me wrong. It's not the patients. It's not
nope. It's
it's
not the
not that. It's
patients.
the
It's not the
system is
doctors.
really, really, really bad. No matter whether it's Trump telling you it's better or Biden telling you it's better, it is not better by any stretch of the mind.
Which is why there needs to be a happy medium between both what we're saying, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother, we could talk about that for a long time. So Cynthia and I went to go find a couch for our upstairs. I've gotten to
The
the
VA
point.
hospital. Cynthia and I went to go get a couch. Okay. Smooth.
Yeah, the transitions in the State of the Union were about as smooth. um yeah, Cynthia was finding all these good deals on Facebook Marketplace, and honestly I've just gotten to the point where it's just like we're just gonna go look at the stores that have them new, and they're gonna deliver it to us, and they're gonna put it
That's a
up. They're gonna put it up
that's a
where I
big
want it,
move.
and they're gonna set it up, because you know what? I'm done renting U-Hauls. I'm done renting trucks. I'm done lifting things. I am going to go on a nice walk with some coffee in the morning and have them put it in the house.
Dude, that's big time. I've never
For
thought
me, it
like that
is.
before.
For
That's
me, it
big
is.
time.
And you know how
Oh,
cheap I am. You know how
yeah,
cheap
I've
I
never,
am.
oh, do I? But that is big time for you.
Yeah, for me. You got around to the point, but really that's for me. Um, yeah, so I mean it's nothing extravagant, but it's just nice couch to have upstairs for family. We got family coming over, and we got we got a lot of plans, and it's gonna be good. But It's just funny the type of people you run into when you're looking around at these different furniture stores. We went to Ashley Furniture, and I felt like I walked into the San Bernardino ghetto in there because there was like nothing there. So I mean, like they must have been having supply chain issues. I was like, it's absolutely barren here. He's like, yeah, but prices are gonna go up 30% tomorrow. I was like, oh yeah, here comes the inflation talk. Yeah, okay, we're gonna leave. So then we went to Rooms to Go, which I've never been there before, but they had a little more updated style. And then we went to Living Spaces, which is like huge. And what I liked about them is they had nobody coming to meet you at the front trying to get a commission. They basically, like, nobody talked to you. They just let you look at everything, and they had QR codes on everything. So it went directly to the website. You could just buy it online right there if you wanted to. And then
Spoken like a true introvert.
I'm not an introvert though. I'm not an
true.
introvert.
Yeah, that is true. But you're you get annoyed by people.
I do, because honestly, like they were nice people. I'm not saying they're not
introvert, but I just get annoyed by people. So
because like at the first place, the guy, he was wearing a white coat at Ashley Furniture, because I guess the people who are like specialized in beds, they wear long white coats, like a lab coat, man. And so he's like, yeah, see the lab coat, I know what I'm talking about. And I almost lost it right there. I almost started laughing so hard. I was like, okay, cool, man, cool. He's a real nice guy. But then it's like they set their watch for like 5 minutes, and they're like in the background just watching you. How's it going over there? How are you? You like that? Pretty soft plush? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, because it's really not that busy, right? So they're kind of like,
no, there's like 5 people in there, and he's just like off in the corner just pretending to like fluff some pillows or something. And I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Whoa, I feel like it's worse than like car salesman. Anyways,
that's pretty good.
I know you love my transitions. Are you winding down?
Man, I'm gonna stay up and spend some time with Megan, because I haven't done that. We don't get to do that much when I'm on trauma. So it's like,
you need to, man. We can wrap this
up.
We
had dinner together. We came home. We did watch the State of the Union. She caught the end of it together with me, and we just watched it. And then we made dinner. And so now I haven't spent time with my good friend, because this is like one of the first nights I've had off.
I know,
like during the weekdays, because usually on the weekends you're doing your thing, or I'm like, going seeing, doing something.
Yeah.
And so this is our first time.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks between Utah, and then we went to Dallas, and then we were busy it's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Ever since we got back to Texas. But anyways, it was good talking. We'll hopefully get back on track. Shooting for once weekly. For those of you who are first time listening to this and you wanted to catch the newest episode, you can catch us on most of the popular podcasting platforms. If you're watching on YouTube right now, we're on Apple, Spotify, Google, all of them. So shoot us a message on social media too, if you want to hear us talk about and ramble about any subject. Want to hear a couple of young doctors' opinions on anything. We're talking about couches, we're talking about fights at college basketball games. Look at us.
I feel like we're just two friends who talk, who are doctors.
That's pretty much what it is.
We can
take whatever angle you want on it. We can talk about how Zach's doing on his Lent experience, and we'll go from there. We'll talk about his beanie game.
Oh yeah,
his beanie game is on point.
I'm almost done. I gotta savor these last couple sips
his
here.
Beanie game is on point. All right, so we'll call it a day on episode number 9, Skin and Bones podcast. Hope you guys have a great day wherever you're listening.
Mm-hmm.